My dad took my brother, mom took my sister, and I ended up in state care. Years later, they all wanted back into my life. But I wasn't the same child they abandoned. Charles, sweetheart, you need to understand this isn't about you. Then why am I the only one packing my clothes into garbage bags? Mom, why does Sophie get to stay? Because the court decided, because you can only afford one kid, right? Stop making this harder than it has to be. I'm not making it hard. You are. You're abandoning me. Mrs. Rodriguez will be here in 10 minutes. Please just get your stuff together. My dad took my brother. Mom kept my sister. And I ended up bouncing between strangers' houses like a ping-pong ball nobody wanted to catch. Hi, I'm Charles. Today I'm going to tell you about the day my family got divided up like leftover pizza nobody really wanted. But before we dive in, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real stories that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about family. You know what's crazy about family court? They talk about the best interests of the child, like it's some kind of science experiment they can perfect. But when you're 13 years old, standing in a sterile courthouse watching your parents carve up your siblings like they're dividing up the furniture, you realize grown-ups are just winging it too. They're just better at wearing suits while they screw up your life. My parents' marriage had been circling the drain for years. Dad buried himself in his construction business, coming home covered in sawdust and exhaustion. Mom dove headfirst into her nursing shifts at General Hospital, working doubles to avoid coming home to the tension. My older brother Jake was 15 and already checking out mentally. Sophie was 8, still young enough to believe Mom and Dad might figure it out. And me? I was stuck right in the middle at 13, middle child, middle of the chaos, middle of absolutely nowhere. We need to have a family meeting, Dad announced one Saturday morning, his voice carrying that tone adults use when they're about to ruin your life. The pancakes Mom had made went cold on our plates as they explained they were getting divorced. Jake just shrugged like he'd been expecting it for months. Sophie burst into tears. I sat there doing math in my head. 3 kids, 2 parents, somebody wasn't going to fit into this equation. We'll figure out custody so everyone's taken care of, Mom promised, but her voice wavered like she was trying to convince herself as much as us. 6 months later, I learned exactly what taken care of meant in grown-up speak. The custody battle turned into World War III with lawyers instead of armies. Mom wanted all 3 of us. Dad fought for all 3 of us. But Judge Harrison, this stern woman with silver hair and zero patience, looked at our case like she was solving a math problem instead of deciding our futures. Given the circumstances, she announced, shuffling through papers like our lives were just another Tuesday afternoon, I'm awarding primary custody of Jake to Mr. Thompson, as the teenage boy has expressed a strong preference to remain with his father and continue at his current high school. My heart started hammering. Sophie will remain with Mrs. Thompson, as younger children typically benefit from maternal stability. And Charles? Mom's lawyer asked. That pause felt like forever. Judge Harrison cleared her throat. The middle child presents unique challenges. And that's when my world completely fell apart. Both parents have cited significant financial strain from the divorce proceedings, Judge Harrison continued, and I felt my stomach drop like I was on a roller coaster. Neither household currently has adequate space or resources for 2 children, considering Mr. Thompson's demanding work schedule and Mrs. Thompson's rotating hospital shifts. The air in that courtroom got thick. I couldn't breathe right. Sophie was holding Mom's hand, completely clueless about what was happening. Jake stared at his sneakers like they were the most fascinating things in the world. Therefore, I'm recommending temporary foster placement for Charles until both parents can stabilize their living situations and demonstrate adequate resources for additional custody. Temporary. Like I was a library book they couldn't renew right now. That's insane. I shot up from my chair, and every adult in that room looked at me like I'd just sworn in church. I'm not some random kid you can just shuffle around. I'm their son. Charles, sit down, Dad hissed, his face turning red. No. This is completely nuts. Just because I'm in the middle doesn't mean you can pretend I don't exist. Judge Harrison banged her gavel so hard it sounded like a gunshot. Young man, I understand this is difficult, but outbursts won't change the court's decision. You don't understand anything. You're splitting us up like we're old furniture at a yard sale. That outburst definitely didn't help my case, but I was 13 and watching my family get torn apart by adults who'd never even met me before that day. 2 weeks later, Mrs. Rodriguez from Child Protective Services showed up at our apartment with a clipboard and a fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. I was sitting on my bed, staring at my clothes stuffed into trash bags because we didn't have proper suitcases for all 3 kids. "Charles, honey, you need to understand this isn't about you," Mom said for the 100th time, but her voice cracked like breaking glass. "Then why am I the only one with bags packed?" I shot back. "Why does Sophie get to keep her room, her toys, her life, while I'm getting shipped off to strangers?" The court decided. "The court decided you and Dad are too broke and too busy to handle 3 kids, so you picked your favorites and I'm the leftover." Mom's face crumpled. "That's not fair." "Fair." I laughed, but it came out bitter and harsh. "What's fair about any of this?" I looked at Jake, hoping my big brother would finally stand up for me, say something, anything. He just kept scrolling through his phone like I was already gone. Sophie was crying in the living room, probably not even understanding why her big brother was leaving. And my parents? They looked relieved. That's what destroyed me the most, the relief in their eyes, like I was this huge problem they were finally solving. Mrs. Rodriguez cleared her throat. "Charles, I know this is hard, but the Hendersons are a wonderful family. They've been fostering children for years, and—" "Save it," I muttered, shouldering my bag. "Let's just get this over with." As we walked toward the door, I turned back one last time. My family, my former family, stood there watching me leave like I was going to summer camp instead of getting exiled from the only home I'd ever known. The Henderson family ran their house like a military boot camp. Chore charts covered the refrigerator, mealtimes were scheduled down to the minute, and lights out was strictly enforced at 9 p.m. They had 2 biological kids and 4 foster children crammed into their suburban split level. "You're lucky," said Tyler, another foster kid who'd been there for 8 months. "Some places are way worse than this." Lucky. My parents lived 25 minutes away, and I might as well have been on Mars. "At least your parents are still alive," Tyler shot back when I complained. "Mine died in a car crash when I was 10. He had a point. Didn't make it hurt any less though. I lasted 4 months with the Hendersons before everything went sideways. Their biological son Brandon thought it was hilarious to go through my stuff when I wasn't around. One day I came back from school to find him showing his friends the only photo I had left of my whole family together, our last Christmas before everything fell apart. "Look at Foster Boy's fake family," he laughed, waving the picture around. Something snapped inside me. I tackled him right there in the hallway, and we both went down hard. His friends scattered like roaches when the lights come on. Brandon ended up with a black eye and a bloody nose. I ended up back in Mrs. Rodriguez's office. "Charles, we can't have violence in placements," she said, but her voice was tired, not angry. "The Hendersons are good people, but this isn't working out." Next stop was the Williams family. They were nice enough, but they were clearly in it for the monthly state check. 6 foster kids packed into 2 bedrooms like sardines. I shared a bunk bed with a kid named Antonio who had nightmares every single night, screaming in his sleep about things I didn't want to imagine. "What's your story?" I asked him one night after he'd woken up sweating and shaking. "Dad's in prison for armed robbery. Mom overdosed last year. Foster care ever since." He looked at me in the dim light filtering through the curtains. "What about you?" "Parents got divorced. Didn't want the hassle of dealing with 3 kids, so they kept the easy ones and dumped me." "That's seriously messed up, man." It was. But in foster care, everyone's story is messed up. That's how we all ended up there. I tried calling home every week, but it was like trying to reach people who'd moved to another planet. Dad was always at a job site or too tired to talk. Mom was either at the hospital or dealing with Sophie's problems. Jake stopped taking my calls after the first month, and I could hear the relief in his voice when he said he was too busy with school stuff. Only Sophie would talk to me, and only when she could sneak Mom's phone. "When are you coming home, Charlie?" she'd whisper. "Soon, bug. Real soon." We both knew I was lying. The Williams placement lasted 5 months before Mr. Williams lost his job and they couldn't afford to keep all of us. Back to the group home for 3 weeks, then bounced to another family. That's when I met the Garcias, and everything changed. The Garcia family was different from day one. Dr. Garcia worked as a pediatrician at Children's Hospital, and Mrs. Garcia taught 4th grade at Lincoln Elementary. They had one daughter, Isabella, who was away at State University studying to become a teacher like her mom. "We know this is incredibly difficult," Mrs. Garcia said on my first night, sitting on the edge of the bed in what she called my room, not the foster room or the spare room, but my room. "We're not trying to replace your family. We just want to give you a safe place while things get sorted out." "Things aren't getting sorted out," I told her bluntly. "My parents picked their favorites. I'm what's left over." "You're not leftovers," she said firmly, and something in her voice made me actually look at her face. "You're a whole person who deserves love and stability, regardless of what anyone else has decided." I wanted to believe her, but when you've been passed around like an unwanted Christmas gift for over a year, you stop believing in fairy tales pretty quickly. But slowly, I started settling into the Garcia family rhythm. Dr. Garcia helped me with algebra homework at the kitchen table every night, patiently explaining equations until they actually made sense. Mrs. Garcia taught me how to make her famous enchiladas and listened when I talked about school drama or missing my siblings. When Isabella came home for Thanksgiving, she treated me like an annoying little brother instead of the charity case, which somehow felt amazing. It was the closest thing to normal I'd experienced since Judge Harrison destroyed my life. Then Mom called with news that shattered my fragile sense of security. "Charles, honey, I have wonderful news." Her voice was brighter than I'd heard it in years. "I'm getting remarried." I stared at the phone like it had turned into a snake. "What?" "His name is David Sullivan. He's an amazing man, works in hospital administration. He has a daughter about Sophie's age, and they get along so well. It's like we're meant to be a family." "That's great, Mom." The words felt like glass in my throat. "I know this has been really hard on you, sweetheart, but things are finally looking up. David has this beautiful house in the suburbs, much more stable than my old apartment, so I was thinking maybe." My heart actually stopped. "I can come home?" Silence stretched between us like a bridge about to collapse. "Well, it's complicated, honey. David's not really comfortable with. I mean, we're still adjusting as a new family unit, and introducing a teenager into the mix might be." "You mean he doesn't want your foster kid son messing up his perfect new family?" "Charles, that's not fair." I hung up. Mrs. Garcia found me crying in my room 20 minutes later, ugly, angry tears that I'd been holding back for months. "She's replacing me," I sobbed. "She's got her new perfect family, and I'm not in it." Mrs. Garcia sat on my bed and held me while I cried like I hadn't since this whole nightmare started. "You're not replaceable, Mijo," she whispered. "Nobody could ever replace you." But actions spoke louder than words, and Mom's actions were screaming pretty loud. That phone call changed something fundamental inside me. I decided to stop waiting for my biological family to remember I existed and start building something new. I threw myself into school like my life depended on it. Joined the cross-country team, started tutoring kids at the local community center, volunteered at the animal shelter on weekends. The Garcias supported everything, showing up to my races when my real parents were too busy living their separate new lives to even return my calls. "You're incredibly resilient," Dr. Garcia told me after I won my first 5K. "That's a superpower, you know." "I don't want to be resilient," I admitted, still catching my breath from the race. "I want to be wanted." "You are wanted," he said simply. "By us. By this family." The words hit me harder than I expected. Over the past year and a half, the Garcias had become more than just another placement. They'd become home, the kind of people who showed up, who stayed, who didn't bail when things got complicated. Meanwhile, my biological family kept living their separate fairy tales. Jake posted Instagram photos from Seattle, where Dad had moved the business. New friends, new school, new life that didn't include me. Mom's Facebook was filled with pictures of her perfect blended family, David, Sophie, and David's daughter Katie, all smiling at baseball games and family barbecues that I wasn't invited to. Sophie still texted me sometimes, but less and less as she got absorbed into her new sister dynamic with Katie. I could feel her slipping away too, and that hurt worse than anything. Then came the plot twist that almost broke me completely. Dad called on my 16th birthday. "Charles. Happy birthday, son. Listen, I've got incredible news. I'm getting married." "Congratulations," I said flatly, stirring the birthday cake batter Mrs. Garcia was letting me help with. "Her name's Rebecca Mitchell." She's fantastic, works as a nurse practitioner. Has twin boys, about 10 years old. We're buying this amazing house in Portland with plenty of room for everyone. Let me guess, I interrupted. Not enough room for me though. Silence on the other end. Then, well, Rebecca feels that introducing a teenager into the family dynamic might be disruptive to the boys' adjustment. Right. Disruptive. That's what I am. Don't be like that, Charles. Once we're all settled, maybe we can. Dad, stop. Just stop pretending you're going to come back for me. It's been almost 3 years. I get it. You and Mom got your do-over families, and I'm the reminder of the old broken one. That's not true. Then why am I still in foster care? He didn't have an answer. They never did. That night, the Garcias threw me a birthday party. Nothing fancy, just cake, a few friends from school, and people who actually cared that I'd made it another year. Simple, but they were present. That's all I'd ever really wanted. Charles, Mrs. Garcia said that evening. We need to talk to you about something. My stomach dropped. Even the good placements ended eventually. I braced myself for another goodbye. We've been discussing this for months, Dr. Garcia continued. And if you're interested, we'd like to adopt you. The words didn't register at first. What? We know you're not a little kid anymore, Mrs. Garcia said quickly, probably seeing the shock on my face. You'll be 18 in 2 years, but we want you to know that this is your permanent home if you want it to be. But I'm not Hispanic. I'm not really yours. Dr. Garcia leaned forward. Family isn't about blood, Charles. It's about who shows up consistently. We've been showing up for 1.5 years. We want to keep showing up forever. Your parents have already signed the paperwork, Mrs. Garcia added gently. They agreed it was in your best interest. Of course they did. The final abandonment, wrapped up neat and legal. But looking at the Garcias, really looking at them, I realized something important. This wasn't abandonment. This was freedom. Freedom from waiting for people who were never coming back. Freedom to accept the love that was actually being offered. Yes, I said, my voice cracking. Yes, I want that more than anything. The adoption was finalized 4 months later. My biological parents didn't attend the hearing, too busy with their new lives. Jake was swamped with college applications. Only Sophie sent something, a handmade card covered in glitter and stickers that said, "Congratulations on your forever family. Love, your sister always." I still have that card tucked in my wallet. Life with the Garcias, my parents now, wasn't perfect. I had anger issues that didn't magically disappear with legal papers. Abandonment trauma that surfaced at weird times, like when they went out for dinner without me or when Dr. Garcia worked late at the hospital. I pushed them away constantly, testing whether they'd leave too. They never left. Not through therapy sessions where I raged about my biological family. Not through nightmares about being unwanted. Not through the times I deliberately acted out just to see if there was a limit to their patience. I graduated high school with honors. The Garcias were in the front row, cheering louder than anyone. My biological parents sent graduation cards with $20 bills inside. Jake texted, "Congrats, bro." But Sophie came. She snuck away from Mom's perfect family to watch her middle brother walk across the stage. "I missed you so much," she whispered during our hug afterward. "Missed you too, Bug. Are you happy with them?" She looked at the Garcias, who were holding balloons and flowers with my name on them. "Yeah," I said, watching my chosen parents beam with pride. "I really am." College brought new challenges and opportunities. I studied social work, surprising absolutely nobody who knew my story. The Garcias supported me through every semester, every doubt, every success. Isabella became the sister I chose, teasing me about girlfriends and helping me write essays for grad school applications. "You know what you are," she said during one of our late-night study sessions. "You're not adopted. You're selected. Mom and Dad chose you out of everyone they could have helped." It was a beautiful way to think about it. During my junior year, the phone call I'd been half expecting finally came. "Charles." Mom's voice was smaller than I remembered. "I need to talk to you." "David left," Mom said without preamble. "The divorce was finalized last month. And Sophie, she's really struggling. She keeps asking about you constantly. And I realize, God, Charles, I realize I made terrible mistakes. Huge ones. I thought I was doing what was best for everyone, but I was just doing what was easiest for me. It took you 7 years to figure that out? I'm sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. Is there any chance we could start over? Build some kind of relationship? I thought about it. Really considered it. The 13-year-old inside me wanted to scream yes, to run back to the mom who had chosen convenience over my existence. But the 20-year-old knew better. We can talk, I said finally. But I have parents now. They were there when you weren't. That's not changing. I understand, she whispered. We did talk, slowly, carefully, like strangers learning each other's language. I reconnected with Sophie, who is now 15 and dealing with her own abandonment issues after David bailed on their perfect family. I became the big brother she needed, the one who understood what it felt like to be disposable. Dad reached out too, after his second marriage imploded. Funny how people remember you when their new families fall apart. Jake and I grabbed coffee when he was in town for the holidays. Awkward but civil. I should have fought for you, he admitted, staring into his latte. I was 17 and selfish and scared, but that's no excuse. We were all scared, I said. Difference is, I didn't get a choice about facing it. Do you hate us? No, I answered honestly. I nothing you. You're strangers who happen to share my DNA. The Garcias are my parents. He nodded sadly. I guess we earned that. They had. Now I work at a group home for teenagers in foster care, kids like Antonio and Tyler, like I had been. Lost, angry, convinced they were unwanted and unwantable. Nobody adopts teenagers, one kid, David, told me bitterly. We're too old, too damaged. I got adopted at 16, I told him. By parents who saw me, not my baggage. Yeah, right. Where were your real parents? Building their new families without me. But you know what? Their loss. I ended up with parents who chose me on purpose, not by biological accident. It wasn't the comfort he wanted, but it was the truth he needed. The Garcias come to my apartment every Sunday for dinner. We cook together, Mrs. Garcia teaching me family recipes while Dr. Garcia tells absolutely terrible dad jokes. Isabella brings her fiancé now, and they're talking about kids. I'm going to be an uncle. A real one. You'll be a wonderful tío, Mrs. Garcia says, using the Spanish word for uncle that feels more natural than English now. You understand what it means to be chosen family. That's the most important kind. She's right. I was the leftover kid, the one who didn't fit in either parent's new life. But I became the chosen son, selected by people who didn't have to love me but decided to anyway. My biological parents taught me that family can leave. The Garcias taught me that family can also arrive, unexpected, imperfect, and absolutely perfect for you.